performance is an emotional release. How many people started baking bread during the pandemic just to do something with their hands,
Sure.
writing, drawing, painting, just doing something physical, doing something with your hands, smashing, breaking, like I'm just got this piece of furniture that's trash, so I'm just going to break it into pieces and, and just process some things while I'm just, clobbering, something that I'm putting in the trash. There is some release to destruction, to healthy levels of destruction when you're getting rid of, discarding things and having a process for that, cleaning things out, whittling things down and processing maybe some things, some thoughts and emotions you're having while you're doing that. So doing something physical is an act of creation too, and so that can help us focus on, okay, what do I need in this moment? Or what do I need to change about myself or my environment, because I'm not feeling like I'm where I want to be, or I've noticed that I'm more often than not, I'm unhappy than happy.
Or I need to appreciate where am going, with the example I just gave, what I do have, and
Right.
that all that can bring us back to that place, maybe, and maybe give us new awarenesses.
Right. Because that unhappiness could be, it's not that things are as terrible. It's, again, our perspective. It's like, okay, what am I giving too much weight to and interpreting in a way that is making me unhappy, where really I just need to step back and get some perspective and say, okay, you know what? This is not as big as it is in my mind. This is not really, doesn't need to be weighing on me as much as I'm allowing it to weigh on me.
Sure. Nice. How do you know? Well, let me give myself as an example, and then I'll ask you. The way I know that things, whenever I'm truly under stress, it's hard for me to see that I might be freaking out a bit much about it because it feels so big and so looming. And some of my telltale signs are I start to withdraw. I don't want to connect to people as much, and that's very much my opposite. I can't really sleep. I start skipping self-care rituals like my meditation, my exercise routine. I don't eat appropriately, even if I eat I don't eat that much. And then, so things like that. That's my clue. So if I will dive into some of these arts, like the journaling, like the music, visualizing myself being on the stage, starting to rehearse some of the music, that can really take me out of that. How do you use arts and things to take you out of that place?
Yeah, I think it's similar. I notice if I'm snappy, that's probably not snap happy, but just snappy. Snap happy is another 30-something reference.
It is? Wow.
Yes. So if I'm quick to anger and be on the defensive, and I'm wanting to isolate, that means that something's going on. Like, that usually means I need to write, I need to talk, again, like find somebody that I trust and just talk and say, help talk me off the ledge, because I'm feeling, and I feel like I have physical, symptoms like headaches, or just feeling like I can't, like there's a weight on my chest and feeling like I can't
your body
breathe
tells
when I know
you.
I can't, Yeah. So that's when I know I need to talk, or I need to have some music, have some music I listen to, or even just have some silence to listen to myself, because sometimes we can distract ourselves with so much noise in order to drown out, to drown out internally, what the volume, so we don't have to focus on what's going on inside. So recognizing when I need one or the other, when I need to turn up internal versus external volume, or vice versa. So yeah, but even, even counselors, caregivers, they need to recognize, I need to recognize, whenever I'm in that space where something's going on within me that's impacting my relationships with other people.
Sure. So what you said is you will get a little bit snappy, or are there any other ways that you're like, hey, I'm not being myself, or that is yourself? We have to honor that, but I need to
Yeah.
remove this self and get my space. Is there any other
Yeah.
signs that you have?
Um,
Because you always seem so
I mean,
pleasant all the time.
I, I know, and that's yeah. So yeah, so when I call it when I go dark, I'm like, if I go dark and I'm like not glass half full kind of gal, like I typically am,
Right.
like if I'm pessimistic, then I know I'm like, oh, what's up? And if somebody else is around me, they're like, oh my God, Tracey is down. What is happening? It's like the four horsemen of the apocalypse are coming over the horizon. Please fix yourself, because if you're down, I don't know how to stay up.
Which is
but then,
it's subtle pressure, really.
it really is. Then because then that's like, then I can be like frustrated and say, like, I have a right to be down sometimes. I can't always be the one on the up and up. I can't always be, the sunshine cannot be projected 24 hours a day.
No, it's exhausting.
Yeah, it's got to go dark sometimes. And so I have to remember that it's okay to have down moments. I have to recognize when I'm down too long. You know what I mean? Like when it's I'm letting it consume me versus just acknowledging and saying, okay, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling pessimistic or hopeless or, stressed or anxious? And then what do I need to do, to get back up, because I can't stay here. But I also can't push myself to get out of it before I've fully understood why I'm there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. I think that goes back to our same Myers-Briggs, that if I'm in a good place, I figure things out by watching people running against people and their opinions and how they're doing things. But we go into our opposite when we're truly, truly stressed. And for me, that means withdraw and go internal and figure things out and come up with my truth before I can speak it out loud, if I ever do speak it out loud.
Right. And I think, in those times too, not just writing for myself, but reading, or not just listening to music, but I like poetry, and I just like reading quotes from other people, but especially like quotes from artists. I'm a Van Gogh fan, and so if you just read some of his letters or just some of his quotes, I mean, it's so impactful. You know what I mean? It's so profound. Some of his words, and you're like, here's somebody. Let's face it. Tracey Fleniken, he had it a lot harder than you. So again, it's that perspective of like, oh my gosh, here's this man who struggled with self-acceptance and the will to live his entire life, but yet art was everything. And he talks about, his quotes just about, art was consumed him, yet he wanted to be consumed by it,
Yes.
So it was everything to him. He was alive for the time that he was alive because of art. And so I have my go-to, artists and musicians and people that inspire me and remind me of, what their struggles were and how they overcame things at certain times, or how they process things, or how they experience the world. And it reminds me that there's more to the world than me,
Yeah, that things are bigger than we are. The same thing as laying on the hood of a car and looking at the stars.
Yeah.
And knowing that there's so much more to me than this. I need to know somebody else is in control. That goes back to what I need. So interesting. What is the name? Say the name again so that people can look it up if they want. The one that you said you love his quotes and his.
Van Gogh, Vincent Van Gogh.
Vincent. Okay. Yeah.
And his brother Theo. Like if you even just read, he was so close to his brother Theo, and so there's whole books of just the letters that he wrote to his brother.
Well, that's beautiful. I didn't know that.
Basically, writing to his brother was his therapy.
Yeah.
It was how he dealt with a world where he felt like he never fit in and where he was never appreciated. Because people may or may not know. He wasn't appreciated when he was alive.
No, he was
never,
not.
sold anything, and
Wow.
he struggled the entire time he was alive. And he was actually, the day he was born was the exact 1 year anniversary of when his mother had a stillborn child.
Wow.
So his entire life, he felt like he was second place. He was living in the shadow of the child that she originally
Jeez.
lost.
It's amazing the art and the quality that comes out of mental struggle, maybe mental illness, maybe not, but mental struggle. I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking of, you're saying a lifetime of feeling that way and a lifetime of feeling the difficulties and the misery. I'm, talking about how the last 9 or 10 months of my life has been difficult. I can't even imagine a whole lifetime.
Right, right. And there's a lot of mental health, mental illness, depression, anxiety associated with art, and that is part of many artists' lives. Is the reason they create is because of the depths of emotion that they feel, and the trauma and experiences they've been through.
Yeah,
But we also have to remember that artists are more than the sum of their
of
experiences.
course.
That because they maybe do deal with anxiety or depression or PTSD or any number of other issues they've experienced, it doesn't mean we need to discredit them or say that the art only emerged from the trauma,
Right.
or that you could only be an artist if you are traumatized or if you are dealing with mental health issues. Any number of individuals can be creative, and
I do
you can
find
find
that
beauty.
some of these struggles really make it more powerful, though. It seems like in so many cases, like look at the comedians. Almost
Right.
every one of them have had. I mean, I don't even know any that haven't had their own personal traumas and triumphs, and that's where their art comes
Right.
from.
Right. And that's what humor and comedy is, where they found their solace. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people who don't like David Spade because they say he's so snarky and smart aleck, and they can't stand his attitude. But I love David Spade. If
Mm-hmm.
you ever listen to his stories and listen to him talk about his life experience, I mean, he had a stepfather that committed suicide in their backyard.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and a father, his father, who was absent, his entire childhood. I think he talks about he saw him one time and he gave him a Nerf football, and that's the only experience he remembers with his father. He had several friends in high school who died of drug overdose or car accidents, and then of course he lost his best friend, Chris Farley, to a drug overdose.
Sure.
So he's somebody who's had a lot of trauma and who, growing up, didn't have a silver spoon in his mouth, and certainly wasn't somebody who felt like he fit in or was accepted. And he started working in food service, just to get by as a comedian. And, he still talks about to this day how he gives 35 to 40% tips everywhere he goes, because he wants people who are struggling and working in those industries to be able to survive.
It's
So
beautiful.
there's so many stories that we don't know behind somebody's career and somebody's drive, and why they are the artists they are today. And so and that's not just with artists. We could all benefit in society by getting to know people's stories and getting to know who they are and how they've evolved and what they've overcome, and give them credit for that, and give ourselves credit for things that we've managed and overcome, and how we have pulled our experiences, good, bad, and everything in between, into our own development, as a person.
Well, you reminded me that, without realizing it, that's something else that I do if I'm really having a hard time for whatever, a time of my life or whatever. I start looking for these stories, the Robin Williams, the Steve Harveys, some of these that have overcome the up and coming,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have to be famous. That's just the ones. I mean, I like any of the, like the stories from New York. I don't know if you've seen that series that hits Facebook. People that everyday people who
Mm-hmm.
are warriors that we never know. That's what gives me inspiration.
Right, right. And that's, if you think about, activists and people who are, involved in social justice or nonprofits and volunteerism, that's all creation. That's all art, because that's somebody who's making something